This is Unit 9, Module 9, the buyer and the property showing. How do you get an appointment with a prospective buyer? The best way to do that is with phone inquiries. What a brokerage will do, or their main focus is to get people to call into the office. They'll call in based on magazine ads, newspaper ads, radio ads, websites, where people have seen something on one of those advertisements and decided to call in and get more information about a property. And the best way for you as a new agent to capture one of those leads coming in, because you can't get an appointment without initially getting a phone inquiry, somebody calls in and you pick up, is to schedule floor time in your office where you're sitting behind the phone. When a hot lead calls in, you're talking to them. Well, how do you get information from them and ultimately get an appointment? Because what you're trying to do, number one, is get their name, get their phone number, get their email address, and find out why they're calling, or what listing they're calling on, or what area they're more interested in. So that's your goal, to get them into your database and ultimately get an appointment with them at a property. Here's what I'm talking about. This is Coldwell Banker West in San Diego County, and you can see on their website, you can drill down and look for anything you're looking for specifically for your dream home, or you can just peruse down and look for listings and hopefully find something you're interested in. And then as you come down here, here's all the locations with the phone numbers. So if somebody's looking for one of those listings and wants to get more information, they're going to come down here and dial one of these phone numbers. So hopefully you'll be on floor time when that call comes in, and you can answer questions about the property and ultimately get their contact information and get them to a showing appointment. Here's some of the tips you may want to use when you get a telephone inquiry from advertisements. One of your goals is trying to get the caller's name and telephone number and email address, because you want to have a way to follow up with them. They'll initially probably have specific questions about a listing that's for sale, but during the course of the conversation, you want to ask questions. Ask what the client really wants. What's their dream home? And then listen, because they'll tell you exactly what they want, and then you move heaven and earth as an agent to find them what they want. So you want to find out what they're interested in and answer most of their questions. But what you really want to do is hold back some of the details, because if you give them everything they need at this point, they have no use for you. They have everything. They can go out and look at the property, drive by, whatever they want to do. Ultimately, what you want to do is meet them at the property or meet them in your office so you can talk to them about what they're looking for and the availabilities of listings. You can also answer some home elimination questions from the potential buyer. For example, they may ask, does this property have 3 bedrooms? In which you can follow up with a statement of, are you looking for 3 bedrooms or more? In addition to, they may ask the sales price. And you may quote them the sales price and say, is this a price range you're looking in? Could you go a little bit higher? Kind of drill down and find out what they're really looking for as they go out and look for their home. After some communication back and forth, then try to close in an appointment and say, would you like to go view the house? You would probably want to suggest, would you like to meet in my office at your home or at your home before we go out and preview the property? And at that appointment, that meeting, you can give more information, printouts and flyers on the property, and information about you also. And then be very positive in saying, would you like to meet at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock tomorrow? If they're not available, then push it off and say, how about the next day? Is 4 good for you? Is 5 good for you? And also mention that there's other properties in the area that are available also that the client may be interested in. So make sure and put the hook in there that you're going to look at some other properties also to make sure to find the right property. And then with that, you can end the call if you get your appointment. If they don't make an appointment, try to get some contact information from them. Possibly by saying, I have a link with some pictures of the property. I've got a flyer on the property. If you give me your contact information, I'll email it over to you. You can also ask, are you interested in being alerted for new listings coming up that really haven't been advertised or hit the market yet? In that case, could I have your phone number? Could I have your email address? That way I can put you on my contact list. When something does pop up, you'll automatically get notified, and I'll follow up with you and see if you want to make an appointment and go out and see that unit. If you get an internet inquiry, the caller is probably already half sold. They see something on the internet, they previewed it, um, they're probably ready to make an appointment. So you may want to have some initial early conversation about price, but then move on and try to close on an appointment. Would you like to go visit the property with me? Can we set a time to go look at the property? Is 5 good? While we're out there, are you interested in viewing any other similar properties or previewing the neighborhood? I can show you around. And then once again, the list price, the home is listed for 600,000. Is that in your price range? Can you go a little higher? Things of that nature. But set the appointment right away. If they're calling off the internet, they probably have enough information to go out and look at the property, and that's why they're probably calling to go out and view the property. Sometimes it's tough, and a buyer does not want to give their contact information or phone number, um, even if you've set an appointment. So in that case, what you probably want to do is to say, hey, if I get tied up or need to reschedule this appointment, can I have your contact information? Can I have your phone number to make sure that I don't miss you and cross wires? Or you can also say that you have a flyer or some photos that might help them as you meet to preview the property, and they might be interested in looking those prior to meeting with you. Can I mail those out? Can I email them to you? And once again, try to create a customer and let them know, hey, we're talking about this property, but if I find something else that seems to be what you're looking for, would you mind if I email those out to you or put you on my database in my drip system where it'll automatically come out when that new MLS hits the market? So try to get their contact information, email and phone number. Unfortunately, safety has been a really big concern when people are going out to meet customers at properties. So by all means, take some precautions as you go out. When you're having your initial meeting, it's a good idea to meet at your office where you know other people are going to be there. If the client does not want to meet at the office, or maybe wants to meet out at the subject property, you might want to consider taking another agent with you, or at very least let them know where you are. And if that appointment changes, call back the office and say, hey, my appointment changed to this time. I just want to let you know. If you're meeting a party at a residence, try to determine if that resident, if that person is actually a resident at that address. Sometimes your title company can help you do that if they own it, but try to find a means to ensure that you're meeting a bona fide client as you're going out to their residence. Avoid wearing expensive jewelry. Don't park in the driveway, as you can get boxed in. In addition to another idea is you don't want to park in the driveway anyway if a seller's there, because you're going to possibly block them in or not get a view of the property. But as you go into, make certain the doors are not locked in either the car or the house, so you can have a quick access exit if you need to. First impressions are really important, and you want to make sure that your clients feel that they are important to you. So make sure and remember their names. One thing you might want to do if you're carrying a notebook, write their full names on that notebook so you can refer to it. In addition to, just try practicing their names and pronouncing them correctly. And people like to be referred to by their names. So when you're discussing something, use their name when asking a question. And then also make sure that they know that the initial meeting is really important, because at that time, the real estate agent is finding out what specifically the client is looking for in buying their new home. And that's important as they go out to look and search for properties. There is a qualifying process for an agent too. As you talk with your customers, you want to find out 3 things. Number 1, what are the needs and interests of the buyers? How soon do you need to move in? What areas would you like? What's your motivation? Do you have to move quickly within 30 or 60 days? Are you being transferred in? Do you have another house to sell? All these things have to be addressed to really be successful in getting into their new homes. In addition to, you need to find out their financial resources. Specifically too, you want to find out if somebody's coming in with a down payment, which most people are today, do they have the source of funds for the down payment? Your loan officer is going to need to know that. In addition to, the seller will probably ask for source of funds. If you're saying you're putting $200,000 down on a purchase of their property, that seller's going to want to see a bank statement with $200,000 or more on it, so they can feel confident that you can close the transaction. You probably want to ask too, sort of a little pre-qualification, what they think they can afford, what kind of loan amount they want, what kind of payments they feel comfortable making. Now, you're not a loan officer, you can do some quick math to make sure you're showing them in the right locations with the right prices where they can qualify for a loan ultimately also. Some agents don't like to do this, but you can pre-qualify somebody. Some of the general rules are that you should be worried about a front end and a back end ratio. A front end ratio is this: if it's the total house payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance, if you need that also, divided by the buyer's gross monthly income. And with the book, it says 28% debt to income ratio, meaning that should be 28% of your gross monthly income or less. And then likewise on a total debt to income ratio, they're looking at the PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, plus MI, plus your other bills, car payments, MasterCard, Visa, divided by your gross monthly income. And the book says around 36%. But in today's market, it's quite a bit different than that. It's whatever you qualify for, and all the borrowers are different based on their amount of down payment, their loan amount, and their credit scores. So what you really want to do is probably have a partner in a loan broker or a loan officer to have them actually do a pre-qualification before you get in the car with your clients and drive around day after day showing property and increasing wear and tear on your car and gas. What a loan officer will do is actually take their information and run it through an electronic underwriting system. One of them is called DU, or Desktop Underwriter. That's with Fannie Mae. Or you can use Loan Prospector, and that's Freddie Mac. And they'll actually run that through and calculate the ratios based on their current credit scores, and it'll come out with a loan decision. It's really important to have them talk with somebody like that first before you get too far into the transaction. Here's a quick little worksheet you may want to use. Now make sure and let your customers know that you're not a loan officer. You're just running some quick numbers to see what they might qualify for. So this is the spreadsheet. I think it comes out from Fannie Mae, but you can just load it in a few simple questions and it'll spit out what they'll qualify for. For example, if you're looking over here on this side where it says annual income, you can ask their salaries. You might ask the first spouse, how much do you make? And they say, I make $60,000 a year. Notice that clicks over to $5,000 a month, and the other spouse makes $72,000. Okay, and you can ask about other income, but be really careful about that. Really should ask a loan officer if that other additional income can be used, because there are some rules on it. And now you want to look down below where it says, what kind of debts do you have? Car payments, MasterCard, Visa. So they say they have a $500 car. Credit card bills are $150. Also ask about student loans too. So you'll see what happens here. It clicks over and it shows the qualifying debt to income ratios. In this case, I'm using a 40% for the top. Now the book says 28, but as it goes into the electronic systems, if they get approved, they're approved. And on the bottom, 43% is really the standard for all the debts, PITI, plus their car payments, MasterCard, and Visa. So what it actually does is take this gross income and it figures out what 43% of that is. So it figures out the PITI, takes into account the $850 in other debts, and says that you can qualify for a principal and interest of $38.80. So you come down here, actually it's $38.80, it was the total, and then you're just going to subtract an estimate for escrow payments like taxes, insurance, and So you have the estimated allowable, the 43% of the gross monthly income is 3880. Down below, you're going to have to take an estimate for taxes out. And property taxes are 1% of the sales price divided by 12. So I'm just going to guess in this point and say it's $600. Then you can take an estimate for homeowners insurance or fire insurance. If there's any HOA dues, you can change the interest rate. It's a 30-year fixed. So in this case, you'll net that out, and this comes out, and this is the principal and interest, the PITI. I'm sorry, the P and I, because we took the T and I out of here. So that's 3,080. So loading it back into the calculator, they can qualify for a max loan amount of $645,140. Okay, so say they're putting $100,000 down. You take $100,000, add it to this, so that's $745. You show them homes at $745,000. So it's something to play with. If you have questions with it, give me a call. But I'm going to hang this in the module so you can look at it. It's in Excel, so you have to have Excel on your computer to be able to use it. But go ahead and use it as a tool if you'd like. So that was a little pre-qualification. I don't know that I'd go any further than that. Just do some rough numbers on your computer, or bring in your loan partner, your loan broker, to really work it up and give you, down to the exact penny of what they think someone can qualify for. As a loan agent also, or I'm sorry, as a realtor also, I wouldn't ask for anything like W-2s, pay stubs, and tax returns. Leave that up to your loan broker, because those can only be collected at a certain time in the loan process by law now. During the process, you need to prepare your buyer. One of the things you need to do is to sort of prep them for a type of financing that's available. And once again, I would have a lending partner to do that, because they'll know what programs are available, what interest rates are, what prices are. Let your loan officer handle that. As you show the properties also, if somebody's really interested in in a in a property and they really want it, they should come in with a substantial earnest money deposit. I would say the minimum that they're going to look for is probably 1%. So if you're buying a house for $500,000, I would say I'll put my earnest money up at 1% or $5,000. And your buyers need to understand that even though that's a lot of money they're putting up, they'll get that money back if their offer is not accepted. In your appointment, it'd probably be a good idea to go over a boilerplate or a template of a purchase contract. Go over a few things on it to instruct the buyers on how the offer will be written up, and also give them a copy to take home so they can look at it. And then the next time they come in, you're actually filling in the blanks. They'll probably feel a little bit more comfortable as you go through, fill it out, and get them to sign the offer. Three things can happen when your offer goes in. One of them, just straight acceptance, no conditions, no counter offers. They just accepted the property, and you've got a property you're going to purchase. The other would be a counter offer situation, where it's probably put back on you. Say the property was selling for $600,000, but you put your offer in at, the place was selling for $600,000, you put your offer in for $550,000. The seller is interested, but maybe they counter back and say, I'm going to counter back at $575,000, and then it's up to you to accept the offer, the counter offer. Once you sign the counter offer, then you have a deal. The third option, hopefully you won't get to, is rejection. It means each side couldn't come to an agreement and the earnest money is given back. As you go with a property tour appointment with your clients, make sure you determine which properties you're going to see and come up with a strategy of how you want to visit them. Probably as you're doing that too, you're driving through that farm area, and you can point out things like school districts, where the markets are, where the malls are, where the library is. So you're showing them you know the area and sort of pointing out things of interest to them. So you're determining the showing order. You probably ought to have property sheets for each property you're going to visit so they can look at those and peruse those, maybe even prior to getting into the showing, so they're ready to go look at the properties. And if time permits, and today we have software for this too, do a complete tour presentation package for them and including those properties they're going to look at. What you may want to do too is email them ahead of time where they can look at those and maybe even do a virtual tour. As they click on a link, they can look at the photos of the property, or maybe even a short video. So once again, as you're going out to the showing area of the property, really know what's available in the area, and point those out as you're driving through. Identify the boundaries. Let them know where shopping is, recreational facilities are. Be aware of public transportation or any other information you might think would be important to your clients, because you've been talking to them, you know them, you're finding out about what they're looking for and what they're all about. So be the expert and show them what's important to them in purchasing a house. Once again, in your showing techniques, make sure you plan your route out, have a strategy. Take them through. Don't avoid anything that might be negative, but point out the positive, of course, also. And don't park in the owner's driveway. You don't want to block the owner in, number one, but also you want to get a street view of the front of the property. So as you get out and start to approach, that's their first impression of the subject property. So that you come to know your clients, you know what's important to them. So you may want to point out construction and utility features of a particular property, or looking at the color scheme, glamour, texture, carpet, tile, and paint. What's interesting, what looks nice, what looks like it's been replaced. Point out things, fireplaces or windows. You may even comment, hey, a fire in the fireplace on a cool day might be really comforting and be nice and warm in your new home. When you're on your tour, make sure and involve the whole family. If they bring folks with them, make sure, number one, find out what their names are and address them as you're going through the features of the home. You can use tie-down questions that bring positive responses from the people you're walking through the home with. For example, you may talk to one of the kids and say, hey, this looks like it could be your room, doesn't it? So bring the family in. You may walk into the living room. It's nice and spacious. You could use a tie-down question by saying, hey, this is a really spacious living room, isn't it? To get a reaction and get the conversation going. You may even want to invite comparisons. Since you've been out touring other homes, this is the first one you looked at, but you may want to invite comparisons. Say, well, how do you feel about this one or the one over on Elm Street? How do they compare? Which one do you like better? Once again, you're finding out more and more about your client. So remember, ask and don't tell. You need to ask about preferences and choices that your clients prefer, and also negatives, because you're building their dream home in your mind and you're trying to bring that to them and show it to them. So once again, you ask the buyer what they want, they'll tell you, and then you move heaven and earth to get it for them. Showing homes, so you need to find out about trade-offs. You need to find out what's a must-have feature that your clients need. And it may be they come in and say, I want a single-story home. I have to have a single-story home. But you need to find out, why they need that. Why is that? Well, my husband has bad knees and he can't walk up the stairs in the evening to go to bed. Well, if we found a two-story home with a master bedroom downstairs, would that be something that would satisfy your husband's needs? You have to always be ready to handle objections also. So, for example, somebody may pose a negative or positive comment about the property. For example, they're walking through and they're finding the 3 bedrooms they want, but all of a sudden they're saying, well, I need a den too. I have to have an office because I'm working out of the house. You need to be ready to say, if I located a similar home for you, would you, in another area, would you be a candidate? Would that be a candidate for a future home? So kind of be ready and thinking of other alternatives. Canned presentation can be really good because it sort of prompts you of what you need to say or educates on you of how you have to handle an objection. There are a lot of canned presentations out there. Your brokers would have a bunch of those. What you need to do is review a lot of those, bring them into your vernacular and conversations. So after a while, it's going to be common or comfortable for you to just speak with somebody and sort of interject one of those canned presentations and respond to a question or a comment made by your client. So they're very good, and I'd study those and use those to your benefit. Here's some keys on professional conduct as you go into a property. If you go into a property and there's already an agent there with their buyer, by all means stand off to the side and wait till they're done and then bring your client in to view the home. You know, as they do go into the home, if somebody's opening cabinets or pulling drapes apart so they can see the view, by all means, as you leave that property in the same condition as when you entered it. And really important, double check to make sure all the outside doors are locked and you replace the key in the lockbox. If there are animals involved like dogs and cats and they're confined in a room or out in the garage, make sure you get instructions from the listing agent on how to handle that. Do you not want us to go into that room? Should we not go into the backyard because those animals are there? So find out. And also notify your broker immediately if something happens at the property that you feel they should be aware of. Treat all the listings you view as if you would want your listings to be treated also. And if a listing says call first, don't take your customer out there and just show up. Can't do that. Especially anyway today in 2020 with COVID, you have to get your COVID form signed, make your appointment, and then go out at that specific time. If you're at a showing appointment and you decide to go out and see another property on the way, but you don't have an appointment, what you might want to do is make a telephone call, leave your clients in the car, either make a call to see if you can go in and look at it, or if you're in the area, have the agent just go up and knock on the door and see if it would be okay to take a short preview of the property. But by all means, be courteous and respect what the listing agent says and the owner says as far as your appointment. If a listing states that the property can only be viewed in certain hours, please respect that. It's really important, and the owners have specific reasons for limiting the visitation of the property. Possibly there's tenants in there or something, and they have to wait till the tenants have gone to work before you can come in and visit. But make sure and respect what's on the MLS as far as the instructions and the hours. Also make sure and always leave a business card. Leave a business card, number one, because it makes the owner feel comfortable that people are visiting their property. In addition to, you may get calls from listing agents to say, hey, I know your client viewed the property today. Can you give me any advice as far as what you think the price is, how it showed? Do I need to do anything else to try to get this home sold? They may ask for some advice. Interoffice courtesy. When you're calling another office for information about a property, you should immediately identify yourself as an agent and give your company name. Pretty basic here. If you're going to a house today, don't light up a cigarette or cigar or do anything to dirty the property or create a smell. And when you're in there too, avoid making uncomplimentary remarks. You don't know who's in the next room or just around the corner. So if you got something negative to say it later in a private conversation with your agent. After you've shown properties, you probably want to go back to the office and do a debrief. So go back to the office and go specifically through each property and what your customers liked or didn't like, because it'll help you find out the right property if they weren't satisfied with the ones you looked at. And if closing isn't possible, then make sure that you tie them up somehow with a buyer broker agreement or an agreement that you're going to find other properties for them and put them on your database. So when new properties come up, the client will get emailed those new listings as soon as they come out.